Fun times, fun times. We are. I've just been inside and this is still warm. Fresh pallet. I'll make you get it down, and we got B3, but the expiry date is in the 4th. Look, so yeah, long shelf life left on it. And like I say, when I was getting it off the pallet, I feel the plaster is still warm, which is handy for such a cold morning. Good morning, guys. How you doing? So we've got our last sort of day in here. The heating is on in this room, which is very nice for this cold morning. Now, we've got these walls to complete, this room to complete today. Don't have to worry about the radiator, we're just going around that because the customers boxing it in and stuff. Now, this has already been primed up. I primed it up a couple of days ago, and I switched from pink SBR, Kirk Johnston's pink SBR, to PVA in here, and I have in the past, recent past, had an issue with multi-finish sticking to PVA over a painted surface where there's no suction whatsoever. Now, this is where I started, and you can see that there was still quite a bit of pink SBR in the roller, so it's still got this pink tinge. Now, if I lick my finger, that, because it's got the SBR in it, even though it's PVA as well, it's not sort of like re-emulsifying, it's not really tacking up. But if I come to this side, where I kind of finished, and I'm struggling, I can feel it is tacking back up a bit. Yeah, if you can hear that, listen. You can see, and I can feel that PVA with the moisture is coming back to life a little bit, which is, and I feel it now on my finger and my thumb. So, you know, you're always told to go over PVA when it is tacky so that you get a proper bond. But in my experience, you can let it go touch dry, and I quite often do. Now, like I say, these were done the other day, and plaster does stick to SBR. I've seen it, I've seen videos of it, I've seen, even though that doesn't re-emulsify up, which doesn't really make sense to me, to be honest with you, because what's the difference of going over dry SBR that won't re-emulsify to going over sort of like really sealed paint? So another alternative to PVA and SBR is the grits. So the grits do the same thing. They don't re-emulsify, but they obviously have a texture which gives you the key. Now, I'm paranoid to pieces after having some multi-finish fail over a surface such as this. So I've knocked up the PVA a little bit stiffer on this as well, to give it some more strength. So I wouldn't mind having some key, and I did order a tool, but it hasn't turned up yet. So I've had to create something else myself to create a little bit of key. Just sniffing around in that skip, and I had a few screws. I think I'm going to just quickly pop around the whole room doing this. Now, this is quite a patented tool now. I'm going to add it to my merchandise section on YouTube, and you could purchase one of these for £15.99p. So yeah, grab yourself one. But you must hurry because stocks are limited. If you want it for Christmas, even if you're not a plasterer, then you can buy one for somebody that you know is a plasterer. So grab yourself a bargain. Only available here on the Plastering channel, Masters Plaster Smurf 74. As you can see, we've got some board finish. I think, in my opinion, it's probably better for these low suction situations. So let's get this going. It's quite hard for me to get board finish in this area. Although on the back it does say the setting time is 120 minutes, exactly the same as multi-finish, but I find, and a few other plasterers who do stuff on YouTube agree that this seems to pick up quite a bit faster. I've been told that it's due to the less fine particles in there. It's got more coarse granules in there, and so the actual body of the plaster needs less water to hold itself together. I've been quite enjoying using this, but I think we might be coming to the end of being able to obtain this again, because I had to get this from Reading, and I'd have to look up where I can get more board finish should I want it. It is better, I would say, for low suction situations. Up around about a bag and a half, and it managed to get this on and this on, and I looked in the bucket and I thought, you know what, I think I'll probably just have just enough to get this little awkward bit on here, and I was right, and we've managed to clean the bucket right now. Now, some of you guys might be going, well, you knocked that stuff up quite stiff, didn't you? Yeah, you're right, I did for the first coat, and I knew, because I've been around obviously prepping up and everything, I knew these walls were quite undulated, a bit wobbly. I wanted to make up the depth around these beads and stuff, so that's why I knocked up the plaster a little bit thicker so it can hold itself better in the early stages, because I do like to get things as flat as I can right from the outset. Now, I haven't flattened this in yet, and if you're a regular to the channel, you will know that I'm always using this 20x5 carbon steel trowel, which is predominantly straight and just kicks up at the front and back. Now, the reason I use this trowel is, here, I will show you. Now look, this is quite undulated here. I don't know if I can get out of the light. Now look how tight we are here, and tight we are here. So this is the original plaster. See, that's catching so tight there? And see how deep it is here? Okay, so using this stiff, hard trowel, so look, it straightens things like that up. There's another really high point there, you know? So if you're using a flexi trowel, what will happen is your flexible trowel will follow these contours and it will curl this out. So this is what I mean with the first coat. I really like to get things as flat as possible. So I'm just using that as my datum, if you like. Get a little bit over there, a little bit over there. Now I know this is really flat now, even whilst the gear is in this wet state. So there's another high point here. This is what we're straightening up. Now look at this internal. Look how straight that's becoming. If we were using a flexible trowel or something a bit curly, that internal will be snaking around. And if you use a corner trowel, your corner trowel will follow these contours as well. This is why I'm always going on about getting the plaster flat. We don't need it to be smooth at this stage, we want it to be flat. If you can get your first coat really nice and flat, regulated depth all over, then when you come to put your second coat on, the second coat you can knock up wetter and it will go on beautifully. You won't have thick bits, you won't have thin bits, it will go on really nice. So, you know, I'm always saying this, you've got to do that first stage so well, it makes the second stage even easier. This is why I take the time to use this larger trowel. It's slower putting on. I go back round and I flatten it all in, but then after that I'll start clawing that time back and I'll get quality as well, because everything else after this, once I've sorted that first coat out, got it as flat as I can, apply the second coat, everything then starts just getting easier and easier and easier. If you leave these issues towards the end, you'll start getting ripples towards the end, and when the plaster, the sludge starts coming out, you'll start to notice little hollows and stuff, and you'll start trying to fill these hollows with the weaker plaster. You don't want to be doing that, you know, and then you'll find that when the plaster's going, you're trying to plane it off. It's hard work, man. Sort it out when it's easy, when it's wet. Okay, so a little update in this room. So obviously the ceiling is already done. I did that yesterday, and whilst I was doing the ceiling in here, I also picked up the inside of the window reveals. So we've got this on, which is a bit of an awkward wall, doing it in board finish, this on, and that little awkward bit there. So that leaves us for a second here. Obviously this wall, this little awkward bit, and that bit around the radiator. So that's all very, very doable, isn't it? So looks like we are going to be able to get this room complete today. Now, I've got board finish, but that is pretty much the last bit. I've got another bag and a half. I probably will get this all in board finish actually. I'll have to pick up some multi-finish. But I think we'll be able to get it in board finish. So, we could push on a little bit harder, couldn't we? But what's the point of doing a massive rapid gauge and then having a tippy little pit at the end, even if you need to get your tools out and stuff. So I'm just going to let this pick up. I've been around and flattened it off. It's still, in some of the areas that I've taken out, the more troublesome areas which got beads on, still kind of sticking to my fingers. So, you know, when you want to put the second coat on, you kind of want it to sort of be holding itself together and firmed up a little bit. Otherwise, you'll just be adding more wet weight to wet weight that's already existing and kind of sanding a little bit. Even though this board finish has the larger granules in it and it is able to hold itself together, I feel at an early stage better than multi-finish. So let's just let this pick up. So yeah, we've got sealing what we did yesterday. I just stiffened up this bead because it's touching at the bottom and touching at the top, but this corner was like curling round and this was a little bit off, so I'll just put a little bit of plastic in there just to hold that still whilst this is setting. Yesterday we did this sealing. We did this little sealing in here, and we did this sealing in here. And in this room, all we're doing is the sealing. So I need to get away to a different job. These walls are going to be done, but I'm going to have to go away to a different job tomorrow. And then I've got another job to do. Then I've got another job to do. And they're getting quite sizable. So I want to get this guy up to a certain degree to get this room complete, that room's complete. We've got the little toilet ceiling on as well. We did that the first day when we was doing prep. So this guy should have enough to keep him going whilst I'm away doing some other bits and pieces, and I need to get back and do that little room up there, and also I need to do the living room walls as well. So yeah, looks like we're working up to Christmas Eve this year. Right, now let's get back to what we need to concern ourselves with. So that is holding itself together nicely now. Now I've mixed up quite a bit less and mixed it up a little bit wetter for the second coat. So this is going to give a nice tight regulated coat, and reason we're using so much less plaster than what we did to put it on and knocked up wetter is because we took the time to flatten this out as lovely jubbly as we did. So this second coat is going to go on really, really nice. So that is how that wall has just been laid down. Like you can see how wet it is. Okay, that's the condition we are in. How neat is that? And the only reason we've been able to achieve that is because we did what we did with the first coat. Okay, so everything is laid down with the second coat. I need to get back round and flatten it in. It's pulling in. And that's what I'm finding with this board finish. Quite often using the multi-finish, I've cleaned the bucket out now. Quite often with the multi-finish to counteract the slower setting times, and quite often using the dirty water from the previous gauge, washing the bucket round and using that for the second coat to speed things up a little bit. With this board finish, I don't think I need to do that. I'm still kind of experimenting with it a little bit because I haven't used it for years and years and years. So yeah, I'm staying with fresh water all the way. If you notice as well, because you saw how much I knocked up, after I laid everything down with a tight coat, I still had enough to get this little bit of wool on here. Now, this has only had one coat, and notice it is behind the door, look. So, what I'm probably going to do with that is sponge float it with one coat over it. Controversial, I know, and it is a cheat, but it can be done quite well if you know what you're doing. And if you want to know what you're doing, I did do a video all about it. It's called The Problem with Sponge Floating. To sponge or not to sponge. If you ever look down the playlist or just put down in the search engine, whatever, it should come up if you put the words Master Smurf Plastering 74, whatever I'm called. So have a look at that if you want to know what I think about sponge floating. And because it's just that one little wall, I can pay attention to it. Right, I'm going to need to stop waffling on because I feel like I need to get back on this now with a wet brush. And a nice wet brush. Remember, I'm never ever using corner trowels. That's because I use a smaller wet brush, which is fine, more of a paintbrush. And that allows me to keep internals really nice and tidy. And of course, every visit there, I'm running it. So yeah, I'm not just like coming up and with a curved trowel and then finding the internals all wonky and stuff, and then you have to get down and run corner trowel. In my experience, simplicity is the key, and I have the minimal amount of tools that I need, and having a corner trowel is just another tool knocking about, isn't it? So I find they're expendable. There's that internal starting to stay out the light, one that I showed you. It was wobbly. Oh, it's actually better if I'm in the light. You can see how straight that internal is. Now, and you know what? I think we could thank Doug. So tomorrow we are in here, and whilst I had a bit of time, and now this is still wet towards the end, knocked up a bit of bonding because the old cupboard used to be there and it was a bit out, so, and there was some broken brickwork. I think I showed more of it in the previous video, but all this was damaged at the top, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I know they're putting a bed up there, but at least they've got a straight edge to put some timbers up or whatever. So tomorrow, yeah, just got to get this done in here, all the walls, and then get out of there. On to the next job.